Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. Oh, I've got a big takeaway from today's episode with Marisa Peters. Marisa Peters was diagnosed with rectal cancer at under 40, but she'd also had 3 kids back to back, and she knew something was wrong when she was seeing blood in the toilet. And she went to her doctors, multiple doctors, and asked for help, asked for testing, and she didn't get it. And she continued to fight, got her testing, and it turned out that she had rectal cancer and went through a pretty arduous journey of healing. So my big takeaway from today's episode is if you think something is wrong, you're going to have to fight for yourself. And if you don't have the strength to fight, when you go to doctor's appointments, make sure you take somebody with you. Marisa has a lot of really good tips for you today, so I hope you give the podcast a listen. Welcome, Marisa Peters, who is a rectal cancer survivor and women's health advocate. Rectal cancer is on the rise, and our conversation today is to really normalize conversations around something that people don't like talking about, pooping and symptoms that might happen when you're not doing that, and all of the things. So, Marisa, welcome. I can't wait to have you share your story with our listeners.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here today. And I'm really excited to jump into this conversation with you. And for those in your audience listening, really appreciate everybody tuning in because the topic of rectal cancer isn't typically a headline that catches people attention and they raise hand and say, yeah, I want a front row ticket to that
That's
show.
right.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. Thank you. It's not sexy.
No.
It's messy.
No.
No cancer is sexy, but it just seems like people don't want to talk about the rectum. So let's dive in. You were 39 and
Correct.
a vocalist on Broadway with 3 small children.
That's right. And thankfully I wasn't performing at the time of my diagnosis. This would have made it very, very different. My career took a jaunt from the stage to corporate America, the convergence of entertainment and technology. So I was working in a very different setting, but equally as dramatic and creative, believe it or not. So yes, at 39, it was quite shocking to be diagnosed with late stage rectal cancer. It was the last thing I expected, honestly. And so when I went into doctors, I didn't realize until after my colonoscopy actually and had the diagnosis that it had been over 5 years that I'd been voicing symptoms to my medical professionals in my life. And I don't fault them at all. It's simply because of our lack of awareness of seemingly healthy people. I didn't look sick. I had symptoms that were certainly concerning and growing, and happy to talk about those as well during our time. But it was absolutely shocking, like a cancer diagnosis would be for anyone at any age or stage. It just was the last thing we expected.
Right. Especially again, 39. Can you remind me what age is the age for your first colonoscopy?
So the standards recently changed. Up until a short while ago, the age to start screening was 50 years old.
Oh.
They recently made a change in the standard of care, which is to get a colonoscopy at 45 years old, which was a huge leap. And had I waited until I was 45, I wouldn't be here today telling you my story. And while people and doctors know about the change in that standard, there continue to be barriers for people to access that, even asymptomatic, healthy without family history,
Hmm.
it's not something that's happening as often as it should. 60% of people that are age 45 or older have gotten their colonoscopy, and that leaves a very wide gap
Very
of people
wide
that are
gap.
going unchecked, especially when this is a form of cancer that upon early detection and prevention, um, can be caught and eliminate all of the life-altering ramifications that I experienced today, let alone the 11 months worth of chemo and
Mm.
radiation and surgeries that I went through. So we're really trying to help solve that gap for people so that they lean in and say, "I need to get this." And if doctors aren't suggesting it, that individually we advocate for ourselves and make
Mhm.
sure that we are applying these new standards to our lives. And even more so if we have a family history or we have some of the symptoms, that we are making sure we get a colonoscopy. Even one of the symptoms, it's important to get a colonoscopy before that age of 45 when the standard starts to kick in to protect all of us, really.
Okay. So you bring up symptoms and you were 39, but it sounds like you started having symptoms at 34-ish?
At least, yeah.
Wow.
That's when I started voicing it, right? So I
Okay.
looked back when I came out of the colonoscopy, we looked back and it was, um, I asked the nurse, please go find when this particular doctor, when I saw them. And she had to go back 3 separate times because I knew it was in the month of December. I just didn't know what year. I
Mm.
thought it only been a couple of years, frankly.
Mhm.
And it ends up it was 5.5 years before that I had voiced it to the first doctor, which was shocking to
Oh.
me. Yeah, and I imagine I had had those symptoms even earlier than that.
Mhm.
So I had 2 more babies during that time.
Oh my goodness.
It's shocking. So let's talk about the symptoms.
Yes, let's talk about the symptoms.
So the symptoms are blood in your poop. If you for me, blood started showing up like ribbons in my poop. But even before that, when I would wipe, there would be a little bit of blood on the toilet paper. Now, for women, we're kind of used to that, right?
Mhm.
Guys likely wouldn't be used to that at all, but for women, we are. It's just not supposed to come out of the backside of our bodies in
Right.
that way.
Right.
And that was an early indication. Another is severe anemia.
Hmm.
So, because we're losing blood at a
Mhm.
rate that's greater than our body can reproduce, people have been anemic. I was severely anemic at the point of diagnosis, and that can show up in the form of fatigue. There are also blood tests that you
Mhm.
can have done to check your iron levels and understand if you are or not anemic. The other is urgency to go to the bathroom. So there were points where I felt like I was not going to be able to make it to the toilet
Hmm.
in time
Okay.
to have a bowel movement. And so that was because of the pressure on that part of my body. My rectum
Right.
couldn't actually hold the stool for as long
Mhm.
as it should be able to. But that sense of urgency, changes in the texture and size of your stool, very important
Hmm.
to understand. Again, because something was growing, it was having to force through a smaller surface area in order to go to the bathroom. And then lastly, some people experience diarrhea, stomach pain, pressure that builds in their stomach
Mhm.
that then all of a sudden will release, right? That is also another indication that something is materially wrong, and you should get a colonoscopy to just root out cancers growing in that
Right.
particular area in the form of a tumor that could be causing blockage in your GI system.
You've given me so much to think about, and I can imagine, I can get into a doctor's head and think about reasons why they would say, "Oh, you just had a baby. Things are just gonna be messed up for a while." Women, we understand that. But you were so insistent because you were listening to your body, and it sounds like you were kinda saying, "No, this just doesn't seem right." How did you finally get somebody to listen to you?
It's really I think it's just a miracle, honestly, that I was caught and at a stage where I could have successful outcomes, frankly. One doctor that I was seeing, I had had a near-death experience with the birth of our third son. And so we were working through the recovery of my blood. I received multiple transfusions after that birth experience. And so I was in with a range of really fantastic doctors. And we thought there was possibly something in my gut health that had not grown back appropriately. The good bacteria wasn't there doing what it needed to. So it was actually a prescription that they were going to give to me that insurance had declined. And I was so fed up, I almost paid out of pocket a lot of money that would have literally done nothing for me in the end. And they suggested, oh, let's go to a gastroenterologist, because sometimes when you see a more specialized doctor, insurance will then approve
Right.
the medication. That was the only reason I went. And I was like, can I spare an hour of my time in the midst of a really busy schedule to go and do this to save myself these out-of-pocket costs? That's the only reason I showed
Oh
up.
my gosh.
And I will never forget the look on that doctor's face. And she asked me a very important question, which was, do you want a colonoscopy? And my immediate response was, no, who does? Who wants a colonoscopy?
Right.
Very, very important word there, right? If any doctor had suggested you need to get a colonoscopy, I would have been the first to sign up and go through and follow it. It's just the appropriate tests were not done to detect my cancer early enough. And I've now learned the awesome thing about a colonoscopy is not only is it the surveillance, is it the screening check, it's also part of the prevention. Because when you get that colonoscopy, if there's anything detected, be it polyps, they can take it out if it's at that early stage,
Right.
biopsy it, and it's out of your body regardless.
Right.
For me, it had grown to be a 5-centimeter tumor at that point. And so I had this just a bit larger than a lime-sized mass that had grown. And upon coming out of that colonoscopy, that same gastroenterologist, she's like, I'm very sure this is cancer. We're going to biopsy. And lo and behold, less than 48 hours later, we had that conclusive confirmation that it was, in fact, rectal cancer. I was into chemotherapy 10 days from that colonoscopy. And so now, as a result of that experience, I'm speaking out about these particular symptoms, about the steps that could allow someone to get that colonoscopy fully covered by insurance at an earlier stage so that they can ideally avoid what I and my family experienced as a result of this.
Right. And colonoscopies are expensive.
They
Yeah, if you have to
are.
pay out of
Yeah.
pocket. So I'm so happy to hear that it sounds like many insurances today have lowered the age by 5 years, which is really important because, as you said, if you'd waited until the appropriate age to have insurance cover it, you would never have gotten one because you would be gone.
That's correct.
Mhm.
And even for doctors to suggest it, right? We don't often think like we go in for an annual physical or as women at a particular age, you go in and you get your mammogram, you
Right.
get your pap check, you get these certain checks that
Mhm.
are here to help preserve our long-term health and detect things early. Colonoscopies have not been something discussed with
No.
people that are younger, certainly in their 40s. And the technology in this space is very different than what we might have heard parents or other people in our life go through
Right.
in terms of getting a colonoscopy. And so it really is not nearly as bad as some people might perceive it to
Mhm.
be in terms of the prep, in terms of going through. But one of the barriers is you do have to prepare. You have to clean your body in doing that prep 24 hours before you go in.
Right.
And for some people to be close to a toilet for that amount of time,
Right.
our life
Yeah.
can limit the ability to do that if we're working multiple jobs, if we can't
Mhm.
take the time to do that prep and then
Right.
go under for the procedure. Though it's quick, it's pretty much, a day and a half, 2 days out of
It
work
really
that is
is.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you've got small children like you did, I can see, yeah. But it is such an investment, especially if you're having some of these digestive symptoms, which I loved your, very thorough list because those are things that I think if we have some connection to our body, but we have to look. we have to look. I think for so many people, again, here's that unsexy conversation. When you go to the bathroom, you need to occasionally, maybe not every time, look in the toilet, look at the toilet paper and just do a body check, because I think you will, let us know, but it seems like rectal cancer is on the rise.
It is, yeah, rectal cancer and colon cancer, right?
Mm.
Those 2 parts of our body connect to each other,
Mhm.
and we are seeing a staggering rise in people coming down with ultimately late-stage diagnosis,
Mm.
and we don't exactly know why this is happening yet. Physicians are, and researchers are hard at work to try and figure out what the root cause is, but in the
Mhm.
meanwhile, there's something each of us can do in our lives, guys and gals, to understand not only our family history, but what is going on inside of our body and listen to these signals, look at these signals. Our poop is a major signal for
Our
us of
poop
what's
is a
going on
major
inside of our
signal.
body.
You're right. And if
Mhm.
and if people just walk away with that comment, I mean, we're looking at, we get blood work done, we get mammograms if we're a certain age. We get a lot of things done. We get a cancer skin check every couple of years. Why wouldn't poop, which is, the waste products of your body, why wouldn't we pay some attention to that?
Right.
Okay, you guys, as we transition to fall, it just breaks my heart to even tell you transitioning to fall, but we are, which means I also need to transition my skin after a summer spent outside gardening, surfing, going for walks with friends. I'm feeling a little dry and I'm just going to say a little crunchy. So here's what I'm using on my skin this fall. I'm using Body Deli Blueberry Fusion, and it's kind of a micro exfoliant. It's got lactic acid and malic acid and acai. And it's a scrub that I use probably 2 days a week. And what I find is after I use it, my skin is super tingly, which is a really good thing. It feels so much softer. And then when I put serums on top of it, I just feel like it absorbs so much faster. So again, Body Deli Blueberry Fusion Cream, probably one of my favorite products that I use in the transition between summer and fall. Hope you get some. I know you're going to love it.
I mean, I don't expect everyone to study it as much as I do when you go
Probably
through something
not.
like
Of
I
course.
have.
Yes.
It's not a long time, but I can promise you there is not a time I get up from the toilet without looking to make sure there is not blood there, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it got to the point where it started where there was a little bit of blood on the toilet paper. Then there were those ribbons, which doctors, I was discussing with one yesterday. She's like, that's textbook. When you have ribbons of blood in your poop, that is textbook sign
Really?
that there is colon or rectal cancer. Yeah. Excuse me. So
And you would
who
mention
knew?
this to doctors, right? That you saw ribbons. So
Yes.
they weren't aware that it was textbook,
No.
because maybe it was a GP or a gynecologist or whatever. Is that a
It
true
is.
statement? Okay.
Yeah, so I had a fantastic OBGYN who, I delivered all 3 of my kids under her care. She's very detailed. She's, leading edge in what she does. I had internists. I had multiple primary care physicians. There were a range of really talented doctors that cared about me, that were listening to me and were trying to give solutions and work through this with me. The challenge is in medical school, physicians are not taught that rectal and colon cancers can look like this.
Mhm.
They're taught this is an older person's disease.
Right.
This is how and where it shows up. And so that's why, screening and colonoscopies at age 50 and beyond were a standard of care. Now, with the rise in younger people, for me, I did not have genetic predispositioning
Mhm.
that would have given us a signal that something in my family history or in my genetic makeup preconditioned or increased the exposure that I could have this type of cancer. It's chalked up to the environment. So what we're eating,
Mhm.
what's happening around us that's changed in our world, it's having this impact on our bodies and we just don't know why
Hmm.
yet. But I have a photo album on my phone of taking pictures of my poop before my diagnosis. That's called poop shots. Literally. I don't expect other people to have that in their phone,
That's not a requirement today for listening to this podcast. Poop shots.
No, but I had no
Right.
I didn't know what to do, and
Of
even just to keep
course.
myself sane, I'm like, "How this is not normal." At a certain point, the toilet bowl was filling with blood when I would have a
Really?
bowel movement. It
Oh
was
my
that
goodness.
aggressive, and there's a reason that blood is red. It's an alarm signal for
It
our body that
is.
something needs to happen, and no matter how much we wish it wasn't happening, wishing won't make something like this go away, and we
Mhm.
need to be brave and talk about it
Right.
with people in our lives, with our medical professionals that can help and support us. And if they're not finding out what root cause in our bodies,
Mhm.
go to another doctor. Don't stop being your own relentless advocate
Right.
because it may not be cancer, but you should at least root out if it is and continue to follow up until you know exactly what's causing this
Mhm.
change in your body. Because it's not normal.
It's
It's
not
not normal to
normal.
bleed from that part of our body.
Right.
One other point, after having babies, a lot of us might have hemorrhoids.
Mhm.
You can have hemorrhoids and you can have cancer. I have hemorrhoids.
Mm.
And I've been told, oh, these are tiny. You're so lucky. These are cute little hemorrhoids. And that might be the case. Great. Your hemorrhoids can bleed, but there can also be other parts connected to that
Mm.
that are trying to give you a signal that something's really wrong here.
Okay. And that's a great distinction to understand is that you can have hemorrhoids and cancer at the same time. Does the blood look any different?
No, the blood doesn't really look different.
Okay.
There can be different ways that it shows up,
Mhm.
right? If it's darker or lighter, if it's in your poop or it's coming out with it.
Mm.
I had all sorts of a
Hmm.
range of the way that that blood has shown up. We should probably check with doctors if it would look different. And
Right.
I can just speak to my experience. Obviously, not a medical professional here, but it was not significantly different in my case
Okay.
and how it was appearing.
Okay. So it sounds like because you had 3 children, I don't know what the age range, but if it was fairly quickly, I can see where a doctor would say, "Oh, hemorrhoids, postpartum, all of these issues." Is that some of the messages that you receive from your medical team?
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think it definitely is. And for women, and certainly women who've recently had children, it's hard to identify, am I tired because I've just had a baby? Or am I tired because I'm anemic?
Mm.
Am I having these symptoms because I just had a baby? Or is there something different that's going on?
Right.
After you have a child, there is a lot that you're physically, emotionally, mentally, perhaps even financially recovering from.
Mhm.
And these things can take precedence when caring for ourselves, going in and seeing our doctors regularly tends to take a back seat at
So
times for some of
true.
us.
Yeah.
We don't miss those well child visits for our infant for the 3 months and the 6 months and so on and so forth. But we might not prioritize mom's care as much as we would that of our child or
Mhm.
our partner, or our best friend, frankly, where we're going to
Right.
advocate and say, you got to get in and take care of yourself. I love you. I care about you. And how often
Mhm.
do we say that to ourselves? I am a priority. I need to put that oxygen mask on myself first so that I can care for all these people that depend upon me as the mom, wife, colleague,
Right.
coworker, right? Like all
Great
of these different titles we
points.
carry.
Yes, and that point, let's really drive that home. You said you never miss a well child check, but are you missing your own checkup? And if you feel the alarms going off inside, don't press those feelings down. I can't tell you how many people have come on this podcast and they would say, "I just knew something was wrong. I knew something was off. Nobody was listening to me." And sometimes they would even get a test or, some sort of um, a screening, and it would still come back negative, and they'd say, "Yeah, but there's still something off." And it sounds like that was happening for you, although you didn't get the screening.
That's right. And just like an instinct as a mother caring for their child, you know the signals if something is off in your child. You are the best expert and the closest person studying that. And the same can be applied to yourself and
Mhm.
your own body and what's going on. And with the pace of life, with how much we carry on our shoulders, it can move to the bottom of that
So true.
never-ending list, and it really needs to be at the top, and listen to that inner voice, and don't stop. Don't let anybody tell you, "Oh, you're striving for perfection," or "You have too lofty of standards. You're going to be different. This is age," or "This is menopause."
Mm.
My treatment immediately put me into menopause as a 40-year-old
Oh,
woman, and there are a number of things that doctors would say, "Oh, that's perimenopause. That's normal for that."
mhm.
And that might be the case. It can also be an and, not an or. And
That's
so
so good.
if your inner voice is telling you something is off, this is not okay. I should not be living with this. More often than not, there are solutions to these challenges
Mhm.
that are beyond you just learning to cope with it.
Ah, well said. Well said. Yes. So you'd mentioned earlier, be a relentless advocate for yourself. And for those who are listening right now, who that is, let's just say that's not part of their personality, or they have a hard time asking questions, take somebody with you
Mhm.
so that they can be your relentless advocate if you feel uncomfortable speaking up.
That's right. And also give them the permission to let them voice that on your behalf.
Mm.
Sometimes people will go with you and just being in your company is they feel that's the role that they're playing, but to let people know, this is really hard for me. I'm really scared about this
Mm.
and I need you to be persistent.
Okay, as we transition to fall, that's when it seems like there's more fires, there's more pathogens, there's more airborne stuff in our houses. And this is why it's an opportune time to replace your air doctor filters. I love the Ultra HEPA filter because it reduces 99.99% of airborne junk. And yes, I will also say that it is an investment to purchase an air doctor and to change out the filters every few months. But I have to tell you, I keep a really clean house, and I changed out my filters the other day and I thought, Lord have mercy, it looks like I live in a barn because there's so much stuff inside of it. So I can't even imagine if I didn't have a clean house, what kind of gunk it would be protecting me from. So go to the link in the show notes. There's lots of information. Air Doctor's always having great sales. So if you click the link in the show notes, it's going to take you straight to Air Doctor, and you're going to see some of their great deals that they have going on as we transition to fall. Hope you enjoy it.
Sometimes as women, it can get chalked up to, oh, are you being aggressive? Or are do you have that, oh, she's just got that itchy thing going. It might start with a different letter,
Mm-hmm.
W or B, you decide. But it's something where we are not perfectionists. We are not wrong. We are not trying to be a nuisance. We are not annoying. We are not any of these other words that can show up to
Mm-hmm.
describe and, frankly, to silence us from what's going
That's
on in
right.
our bodies.
That's right.
And we would never, ever let something go untapped in the people we love and care about. And yet it's happening for us, for ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would encourage, be very specific. My husband and I, we talked at my appointments. I was so tired of walking in and saying, "Hi, I'm Marisa Peters. This is my date of birth. Yes, here's my insurance card. Here's all these things." Like, I just needed to physically be able to show up and get the treatment
Mm-hmm.
and have these drugs that saved my life, but were also coded as hazardous material
Right.
pumped through my body, right? I couldn't deal with
Mhm.
the other parts of it. And so he picked that up and carried it
Oh, what a
while also
blessing.
he's processing,
Of course, that I
a
could lose
lot.
my wife. Our
Right.
life could be forever changed, all of those things. Yeah,
Correct. I could be a single parent to these 3 young
that's
boys.
right.
There's a lot that those caregivers are processing and bearing as well,
So
as
much.
you know from likely from your journey too.
Yes, so much. Yeah, so much processing. And, their journey is so different from ours. I felt like so many times my job was easy. I just showed up and went through surgery prep, got knocked out, and then, got a glass of ginger ale at the end. Whereas my husband's in the waiting room, with my mom and then texting our kids of
Mhm.
she's almost done. She's good. She's, all those things. So it is a
Yeah.
completely different experience for them. Um,
When I think the focus is on us as the person going through it with the diagnosis, and there is less emphasis on that caregiver,
mhm.
frankly, whether it's your partner, whether it's your children,
Right.
like there's so much that they're processing
So much that
through
they're
this.
processing.
Um, and people need that care and support both through and especially in the months after treatment ends.
Mhm.
You get through that final surgery and or that final, ring the bell end of treatment, and people are like, whew, they did it. Okay, they're cancer free. It's like a ton of bricks, a freight train
It
that hits people and their families at that point,
mhm.
and the community and those that are there supporting you throughout the treatment. I think it's something that's underestimated in terms of the help that's needed at that time as well.
I think you're right because I remember my oncologists and, at least in my case, oncologists never say, "You're 100% cancer free," at least not in my experience.
Yeah.
And they said, "You're 99." And I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna round up because I'm done. I'm just wanna move
Hmm.
on from this season." And
Yes.
so I remember maybe like a week later, my husband and I having the biggest fight of our marriage.
Mm.
And I mean, it was so silly. And I remember at the time as we're yelling at each other, thinking, this is weird. I don't even know what we're fighting about. And we have a great marriage and family counselor. And we saw her, I don't know, a couple weeks later. And she said, "So what kind of support did Steve get during cancer?" And I said, uh, people brought us meals. Like that was,
Mhm.
and so kind of this theme we're talking about is tell people what you need. And that's one
Yes.
thing I learned is you told your husband what you needed when you went to these appointments. I wasn't good with that. Or even my husband saying to his group of friends, "Hey guys, here's what I need. I need you to pray for my wife. I need you to do this. I need you to pray for me." Whatever it is,
Hmm.
and bring us meals. Just
Hmm.
be super transparent with people because what I've found is that people want to help and they just don't know what
They
to
do.
do. So they might, send you a note, a text or whatever, but people really want to get in and help you. So let them.
They and that's not to be underestimated. The cliche or whatever it might be, the gift is in the giving, right? When you allow and invite someone in to help you, you are giving so much to people who want to be there to support and lift you up, especially if you are a person that has been the go to for others in that
Right.
case. For our family, we are very comfortable showing up. Hey, you're in a tough time. Like, it's the greatest honor of my life
Hmm.
that my best friends from childhood all the way through current, we can go a long stretch. And when something goes on and I'm the person on the other end of that phone line that they turn to, it's the greatest honor of my life.
Yep.
I was not good at turning that over and saying, like, I'm in the middle of a major storm, a crisis, and I need to be able to lean on you
Yep.
through this. And it's a really different feeling. And we have to be specific about what it is that we need. Those meals that come, we were the recipient of that. Our community was absolutely unbelievable in lifting us up through that time. The incessant prayers that worked. The medical care team that I had, my workplace was unbelievably supportive and a rock for me throughout to keep life as normal as possible. neighbors, people we'd never even met showing up and bringing things, right? Um, I got so many flowers that were delivered. And as a performer, I loved it
I know.
because it was at
I
the end
loved
of a
it too.
show. Yeah, you get
Yep.
showered at the end of a show with flowers, right? It's the celebration, it's
Hmm.
the recognition of a performance well done. And those flowers all stopped at the end of treatment.
Hmm.
And I was like, what? Whoa. I miss it so much.
Interesting.
Like
Interesting.
where did
Okay.
that
Where did
where
that
did that
go?
go?
Yeah.
Mhm. And I would study them and look at them. I take pictures of them, like all the things that
Oh,
brought me so much joy.
right.
That's also something to think about in our lives. What is it that brings us that joy, that
Mm,
sense of connectedness, that gives us that inner calm?
right.
Because I think it's Miley Cyrus that's saying this, like, I can buy myself flowers, right?
Hmm.
Well, we
We
can
can.
and we
Yeah. And we
should,
should.
but we can also, when we go and buy them, what's one friend that might really love
Hmm.
a little surprise on their doorstep too? What is that
Hmm.
goodness that we could give and extend to someone else? And often we get in our hustle and we forget about those
We do.
little
We
tiny
do get in
things.
our hustle, and that is really unfortunate. And I'm working on that right now. I just told my husband last night, I want to be less busy. I think we can get addicted to busyness.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something I've battled my whole adult life and career is it's okay to just push the pause button, step back and and just be instead of do.
I was just going to say that. Just be.
Just be.
A really close friend of mine, we were catching up earlier this year and I hadn't seen her for a while. She was like, I just wish for you that you would just be
Mm.
for a little bit. I was telling her my word of the year. I've started this practice.
Hmm.
I have an absolutely amazing therapist that I've worked with throughout these past few years. And we came in to each year with a word that was what we wanted to focus on for the year ahead. What do we want to manifest in it? And it started with looking back at that first year. What was the one word we would use to describe that year, which happened to be my year of cancer and treatment. Um, and so for this year, my word was realize. I've had all kinds of lofty dreams, one being to use this cancer experience for good and for broadening this message on a wider audience. So I have a podcast, Be Seen, that's going to start soon here, but we're in the studio recording. So following in your footsteps with this. But my word for this year was realize.
Mm.
Let's make it happen. I'm writing a book. We've launched Be Seen as a movement to encourage people to go and know the symptoms and be seen, but also to show up and be seen and valued in your life
Mhm.
for who you are, for what you stand for your truth, where so often we can either hide that or have that muted. So I wanted to realize all of that this year. And my friend said, what about just be? Could you just could you just be for a little bit? You've had a lot going on here. And I often hear her voice playing out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just be. I like that friend. We all need friends like that who just say, "Hey, just take a deep breath. Just yeah, go outside, smell some flowers." Yeah, all the
Yes.
things. All the
Yes.
things.
Look at the clouds. Look at the world
Right.
around us. They're changing shape.
That's right.
Is the sky blue or gray today?
Be part of it. Just be
Correct.
part of it.
I hope you and I come back, let's say 6 months from
We
now,
will.
and we check in on how we're
That's
being.
right. We will on our being. Yes. Well, we're about to hit summer here in Washington, which, we don't have great weather, but our time to shine is really like they say summer starts on July 5th in Washington, which is so true. We missed the 4th and we go through maybe end of September. So I'm planning on being I just want to
Good.
be, I want to be outside. I want to surf a lot. I want to go swimming, like all those fun things.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love it. I haven't learned to surf. I'm here in Los Angeles,
Mm.
and I need to do that. I've gotten up one time with some major assistance, but
Yes. And
maybe that needs to go on the
well,
waiting list.
I lake surf, so I'm behind a boat, which
Oh,
I've tried
cool.
ocean surfing, and I just tried that a couple of months ago. It's so much work. And then I was up for a nanosecond, whereas
Mhm.
on a lake, you can be up for 20 minutes and listen to
Yeah.
music, and so that's much better.
You can be up for 20
Oh yeah.
minutes?
Yeah. It's
No.
awesome. Yeah. And you could just pick
So,
your music and, I've got a whole playlist with a little Creedence, little Rolling Stones, little, it's so fun.
oh, I love
And
it.
so
So I
yeah.
water ski. That's a happy place for
Oh,
me from growing up.
yeah. Right.
I don't get to do that in Los Angeles, so
No,
I'm gonna
probably not. Water skiing
try to
is
get back.
great. My husband's a big
You
water
can't do
skier.
that for 20 minutes?
You can't. Now, because if you're really working hard water skiing, which most people do, like what do you last? 2 or 3 minutes? It's like
Yeah.
being in a boxing ring. I
Yeah.
compare it. I used to ski. I don't ski anymore, but my husband's a great skier. So anyway, so
All right, I'm gonna have to find that surfboard. I'm gonna try it
let's
this summer.
be this summer and we'll reconvene in September, October. So Marissa, do you have any indications as to why colon and rectal cancer seems to be really growing in this younger population? I mean, I know you talk to a lot of doctors, and so do I. And I have some thoughts, but I'd love to know yours.
So the truth is a bit unsettling because we really don't know
Mm.
why. We really don't know why. And there are a lot of different theories. One can be red meat.
Mm.
Another is around preservatives in our food,
Mhm.
something that changed roughly 30-ish years ago
Yep.
in our diet 40 years ago. And if we look at that, there's a lot more processed components to help preserve the foods that we're eating. I just learned yesterday from someone that there's a hypothesis that it could be related to microwaves and microplastics. I think you, Deborah, were sharing another potential theory.
Mhm. One of my podcast guests who
Yes.
is a cancer physician, and she sees an uptick with people putting cell phones in their back pockets.
Yeah. So, there's so many different theories. Sedentary
Mhm. I've
lifestyle,
also read a lot of data on that one. Mhm.
totally. And so we don't know. It could be a combination of factors. And one that I didn't touch on is genetic predispositioning, knowing your family history. And if you have a grandparent who's passed of colon or rectal cancer, another parent who's faced or battled it, a sibling, an aunt or an uncle, right? However,
Mhm.
this fits into the map of our families, is an indicator that we should begin surveillance at an earlier age. And that's something that can be met with resistance at sometimes. But while we don't know root cause that's driving this rise, we do know that there are things that we can do today. And with these forms of cancer, there is great news. With early prevention and detection, we can see fantastic outcomes.
Mm.
And that would have, earlier screening would have saved me from stage
Mm.
3 rectal cancer, which required 11 months of treatment, of chemo, um, of radiation for 28 days, of a 7+ hour rectal reconstruction surgery, having an ileostomy bag for 4 months, throughout more rounds of chemo to then have that temporary bag removed and
Mm.
my body being hooked back up and then lighten it all up and it all, going through that reboot
Right.
time of trying to get it working again, which was really
I'm
challenging.
sure it
And
was.
and so um we have to lean on the fact that there are things we can do today to change our own personal quality of life and our health span as these scientists figure out what is going on. I
Mhm.
fundamentally believe we will have tremendous breakthroughs in the testing and how to detect this early. I also fundamentally believe that we will be able to eradicate this. I think we will see it in my lifetime, but not for me to benefit from. Um, in the meanwhile, we've got to take action in our own lives today and encourage other people to do the same as the medical advancements catch up with the realities we're facing.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like there's, and there's never just one factor that's driving, these alarming statistics of younger people getting colon and rectal cancer. So you've given us a lot to think about. And I'm just curious, what would the Marisa Peters from today say to her 33-year-old self when you started to have these symptoms? What would you say to her now after walking through this incredible journey with such courage?
Thank you for saying that. I would say to my younger self, never give up. When something is going wrong inside of your body, big or small, or in your life, never give up. And I would say colonoscopies are cool. I don't know any 33-year-olds or maybe even 80-year-old that says colonoscopies are cool. But I would say, hey, colonoscopies are cool.
Yeah.
Go get it. Get it done. Don't let the fear, don't let the barriers that may exist in your way, whatever it may be, time, money, doctors, insurance, whatever it is. Fight like heck to see it through. And do not give up to have that level of validation in your life, because stuff's going on inside our bodies and we can fix it. It's actually pretty easy if we catch it early. And I just did a colonoscopy in December, and I got to say the prep is pretty easy breezy at this point. It's so much
better. Honestly, I was posting about it on my Instagram. I said, this actually kind of felt like a spa treatment. It was really nice.
Yes.
It was after Christmas. I got to just stay home in my bathroom.
Yeah.
All the things.
No, it's true.
And then take a great nap. So yeah.
That's exactly it.
Right.
And I've had a number of moms come to me and say, it was the best nap of my life. And then others that, on a regular basis do cleanses. I've never done the cayenne pepper, lemon, whatever.
No.
But even people who do that, some of them are really scared of doing the colonoscopy. And I think acknowledging that fear and it not becoming something that paralyzes you is really important to move through. And it is. There are a number of ways to prep. And so if that's something that's limiting you, talk to your doctor about it. Because I now know there are lots of different ways. And the first one I did was really tough. The first prep was really, really tough. But I have now tried a lot of different ways of doing it. And there are, like you said, there are really easy ways to be prepared.
Yep, there are. So I love and we'll just end with that. Don't let the fear of this kind of take your mind over.
That's right.
And then you end up delaying or avoiding completely. And I tell you, the peace of mind of just doing the test, getting the results is so much better than the fear that we're thinking about, because it just relieves you.
Thank you. That's right. And in more ways than one. Thank you for sharing that you got your colonoscopy and your prep experience, because that's part of normalizing this conversation. So one suggestion I might make to those that are listening is, if you do it, talk about it. Tell people, because that serves as a reminder, but it also helps put others at ease that, hey, this is what we do.
Right.
This is part of just taking care of ourselves. And it's part of why we launched Be Seen and why we've invited people to take our pledge to take care of themselves. It's exactly what you did, Deborah. You went in, you got your regular checkups. It was time for you to have your colonoscopy, and you are committing to yourself that you will be seen.
That's right.
So I would love if you'd take our pledge And if you'd be willing to share with your community, and for those that are listening, if they're willing to do the same, you've already done the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
And when people make that little commitment by taking a pledge, we find that they have greater follow through on it. And so we're trying to reach
Mm.
100,000 people who are taking our pledge to be seen. And we've started. We've got a long way to go to get to that number. So appreciate your help on that.
Well, you put your terrible pain in the year that more than one year that you've been through this, but really making it so purposeful. So we will tag all that information in the show notes, and maybe y'all can take the pledge with me. So, so like you said, I got the worst part out of the way, which wasn't, again, it
You
wasn't even
do.
that bad. I looked at it as, I'm doing this after Christmas. I've eaten a ton of things I don't normally eat. It's just like I'm starting a clean eating in January by getting my
Yeah.
colonoscopy. So get your
Yeah. It's a fresh
colonoscopy.
start.
Right. It's a fresh start. So look at it that way. It's all about reframing, right?
Totally.
Totally.
And the other thing, I'm curious from your experience after you got your colonoscopy,
Mhm.
how'd you feel after you were done?
Oh,
Were there lasting effects?
yeah, 0. I mean, I came home, took a nap, and then, I mean, I worked in the afternoon. So,
Right.
I mean, yeah, they say don't operate heavy machinery. So I stayed off of my tractor. I'm kidding. I don't actually have a
Okay,
tractor,
good. Well
but,
done. Well done.
and they said don't buy a Ferrari. You're not supposed to sign paperwork on that day. So fine. But other than that, I came home, took a nap, had lunch, went back to work. So it's easy breezy.
Yeah,
So please do it. Marisa
totally.
Peters, thank you so
Thank you.
much. You are a woman of great wisdom and great courage. And thank you for being on Why Did I Get Cancer? I get so many newsletters every week. And I have to tell you, I probably read half of them. But when I open it up and it seems like it's really long, really wordy, I just delete, even though the information might be great. So here's where my newsletter comes in. I've designed my newsletter to be read in 45 seconds or less. I've actually been doing this newsletter for probably 25 years, and I enjoy editing down so that people will stick with me and they'll hang in there and they'll read the whole newsletter because there's good information, there's coupons, and there's things that I'm loving that I'm trying right now. And I try to pass that information on to you. And I usually talk about my podcast guest. So if you go to the link in the show notes, there's an easy way to sign up for the newsletter. It's free. It's never going to cost you anything. And again, you can read it in 45 seconds or less. And please pass it on to your friends. Enjoy. Hey, y'all, can you do me a favor today and go and leave a review of this podcast? I know that the more great reviews, wink, wink, emphasis on great reviews that I get, along with more downloads and more subscribers, that pushes this podcast out to people who might normally not even find it. And the reason I started this podcast and my real heart for starting this podcast is that I needed this information. It wasn't available. And so I started a podcast so that I could be a blessing to others. So you're a blessing to me just by being here. And again, thank you for your support. Thank you for your positive reviews and all of the notes that you send me. And also just want to say, hey, keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. And if you need medical advice, please reach out to your team. That is going to be just the best source for you because they know you. So again, I hope you enjoy this podcast.